In some of my other videos, I've talked about music and silence, realizing the truth, realizing yourself through music, resting as the self, resting in the silence, enjoying the sound of music, going into that sound, and then resting as the silence that arises. But there are infinite number of ways to talk about and express silence. Music is one. The different textures of experience that are the silence itself is another mode. Looking into the now, the beingness of what's happening here and now is a popular one that people discuss quite a bit. And I've said before that music automatically brings you into the here and now. So making it a really powerful tool. All the traditions that have been here up till now have had many ways of describing and expressing different facets of the reality. So you put together truth itself and the now. You could think of it, you could look at it as a now truth, the beingness that is here and now. The now truth is not just being in the now as it relates to time, and not just relating to truth as some sort of ideal. It's difficult to point to it with words, so this hybrid phrase is appealing. The now truth, which encompasses and goes beyond any idea of time, and which is anchored in and completely permeated by the source of all of that. So what is this now truth? You taste it easily in any experience that you're having, but it's basically the reality which, by the nature of being here and now, is ever expanding more and more, going beyond and beyond itself, and expressing itself in new ways. So why am I talking about this now, when many teachings and many times when you hear about enlightenment, it's talking about how it's a complete stop, it's a full stop, it's the end of the search, it's the end of the road, end of seeking, end of suffering, the end. It's, you're finished, that type of thing. And that's true. That's also very true. But at the same time, why would truth be limited in any way by some sort of an end? Can truth come to an end? So there's no end and there's no full stop even in truth. So the full stop was for the mind. Your mind stopped because you realized you didn't have a mind. And you established in no mind, which always was the case, So, having established in that, come to complete rest. What happens when you're at complete rest? What happens when the ocean is at rest? Does it not produce waves? there are many examples of being a waveless ocean. The reality is that, of course, there are waves. What are the waves? Not apart from the ocean. So it's totally free and fun. And it could be any way, not that it's only fun. So this, when I say it's ever expanding, the reality that is realized just goes on indefinitely, and the realizations continue after suffering is over. So yes, there is more into indefinitely open into this now truth, you could say. So this now truth is a bottomless opening of freedom and discovery. So there's definitely an end to the confusion. I mean, I like to use the word confusion even more than suffering, because the suffering itself was based on a confusion about who you are. And the forgetting of that, or the confusion of that. It's like, looking at something and thinking it's something else, and then you realize, oh wait, it's not that, and then the confusion is over. It doesn't mean that it changes whatever it is that you're observing or experiencing. But you continue on. So this reality will continue more and more, unfolding more and more through all facets that you can imagine, like the arts, like technology, like whatever you can imagine and not imagine. Many things that we can ever guess will unfold. So that could be a source of comfort in some ways when you're striving on the path and you feel, I've got to get to this end, I've got to make it. So yes, there is some energy you need to put towards completing the task, so to speak, the task being seeing through the mind and all of its layers, and then that is realization of the self, and that's freedom. But that doesn't end your existence, because you are that existence. So what it ends was the confused existence you had prior to seeing what you are and re-establishing your identity in the source, and having re-established in the source, everything being that source, relieves all the confusion and all the difficulty. And then the real story really begins, you could say. There's many people talk about ending the story, or like the stories we tell and things like that. All of those prior stories are like, little stories, and then the real story, the epic, which is a totally unlimited kind of story, begins. So there are infinite ways that you could say wisdom or the freedom expresses itself. It doesn't have to express only in ignorance. So a lot of people, they're very concerned with, getting over this ignorance, getting past the ignorance. What about the freedom that happens and occurs when you, overcome, not that you need to overcome it, but that's, when the ignorance dissolves? What happens after? Well, there's a whole lot of expression that's possible by truth. It's so the interesting stuff really only begins. It's not like, oh, there goes the world, goodbye world. No, I'd say the world is the self. You are the freedom itself. So when you strive for truth, when you strive for enlightenment, which, while you still think you have a mind, it's not that you're going to just disappear. You will reappear as the self. And there's plenty to look forward to. So enjoy that. And you can celebrate it. You can be happy about it. And see what happens. rest in this truth of the now truth, which has nothing to do with any time or any ideas, even about silence or reality or anything. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.